After the college entrance exam, my arch nemesis posted on his moments, "I like you, only visible to you." I eagerly replied under it, "Dumbass, you forgot to block me." Ha ha ha. The next second, he sent me a voice message, grinding his teeth. "Our Chinese teacher was right to call you a traitor. You're as dense as a rock." Seriously? I just teased him a little, and now it's personal? Becoming sworn enemies with Jason was a total accident. When the results for the monthly exams came out, I, as usual, went to the office to get scolded. Just as I stepped in, I slipped on a test paper. I glanced down and laughed. Whose handwriting is this? Looks just like the mess my chicken draws with its claws. The office burst into laughter. I was confused, but a chill ran down my spine. "Excuse me," came a cold voice from behind. I turned around and saw a rather attractive Adam's apple. The guy lowered his head, revealing a not-so-unfamiliar face. Arrogant eyes, a sharp nose, tousled bangs slightly swaying as he moved. I was stunned for a second before his gritted voice pulled me back. "Do you have a thing for my test paper, or what?" He bent down, tilted his head at me, and tugged the corner of the paper with a slender, jointed hand. I quickly lifted my foot and apologized. Sorry, I didn't mean to." Before I could finish, he turned around coldly, leaving me with nothing but the back of his ridiculously smug figure. I scratched my nose, a bit embarrassed. "What? You know you flunked, so you're afraid to walk in?" Just then, our Chinese teacher, Tony, walked in with a stack of papers. He pulled one off the top and handed it to me, smiling in a way that made my scalp tingle. "Take a look at your reading comprehension score." The English teacher took a sip of tea and added fuel to the fire. Isabel didn't do bad. "Top of class 7 in English," the math teacher chimed in. "Only lost 1 point on a careless mistake." Tony looked like he was about to cry. "I've always treated every student fairly," he said, his finger trembling as he pointed at me. "Isabel, tell me, how have I ever wronged you?" I looked at the paper, marked 110, and muttered, "That's not bad at all." "Why don't you look at your other subject scores?" Tony snatched the paper from me and flipped it open with shaking hands. "This reading comprehension question," he said, face twitching. "The theme was brotherly love. Why did you write about homesickness?" I was shocked. What? I clearly wrote about longing for someone. The office went dead silent. Tony stared at me, lips twitching, speechless for a long while. I was just wondering if I should help him snap out of it with a pressure point when a laugh suddenly came from the side. I turned and saw the chicken scratch guy shaking with silent laughter. "Jason, you think this is funny?" Tony turned his fire on him. Her answer was ridiculous, but at least you can tell what she wrote. "Look at your handwriting like worms crawling. I don't even dare read your test. It hurts my eyes. And your essay, what the hell was that? Diary of a Madman." Laughter doesn't disappear. It just finds a new target. I looked up at the ceiling and down at the floor, trying hard not to let him see my contorted face from holding back laughter. Must have been a murder in a past life to end up teaching Chinese now, I thought. Tony gave us a cold snort. "I must have been a serial killer to deserve the both of you." The break was about to end. Tony waved us both away. The chicken scratch guy walked ahead, paper in hand. I caught a glimpse of the essay and couldn't hold back. I burst out laughing. A chilly stare landed on me. I glanced at his not-so-pleasant expression and waved, grinning. My teeth were feeling hot, had to cool them off a bit. "Huh." He looked at me, smirking sarcastically. "Got it. Clearly expressing your homesickness." I glared at him. At least it wasn't some madman's diary. He glanced at my score and said breezily, "Still, I got a 120. I hugged my 110 tightly and snapped back. "Your handwriting's still chicken scratch. Still got 120. You got 0 for presentation. Still got 120. You faked your height during the physical. Changed 179 to 180. That's because I really am 180. He froze, suddenly realizing, ears turning red. That machine was wrong. Electronic devices don't make mistakes. I clutched onto this victory, grinning. I saw you change it with my own eyes when I went to get the form. This wasn't some baseless rumor. Back when the school held a physical exam, Tony was the homeroom teacher for both class 7 and 8. So he had me collect height records for both. I went during break, when everyone was outside on the track, and the building was nearly empty. Just a few steps from the office, I saw a tall, lean guy coming out. He walked with his chin up, just like our rooster back home. He went straight down the stairs and didn't see me, but I recognized him. Jason, the new transfer student. I didn't think much of it, grabbed the forms, and instinctively checked Jason's info only to see the height column smudged. Faintly, it looked like 179, but next to it was a freshly scribbled 180 in wild, messy strokes. Jason's ears were burning red as he glared at me, fuming. I smiled and comforted him. It's okay, you're still growing. Maybe you'll really be 180 in a few years. None of your business. He looked down on me literally and smiled smugly. He drew out the words, "Forever, number 2. That hit a nerve. I exploded. You're number 2. Your whole family's number 2. Jason raised a brow. We both know who's number 2. I came in first this time. The school grew noisy again. It was the end of the drill session. He glanced at the clock in the center of the building, stretched lazily, and strolled off. Back to doing practice questions, unlike certain people who see homesickness in everything. I stood frozen, grinding my teeth. Jason and I both had a weak spot. Chinese. We weren't terrible, but compared to our other subjects, it dragged us down. Before he transferred, I was firmly at the top of the grade. Everyone looked up to me, but also laughed at my Chinese score, calling me a traitor. After Jason arrived, I became the eternal second place. He'd only been here 6 months, but in every exam, big or small, he beat me every single time. Now the jokes were on both of us. Me for writing essays like shopping lists. Him for handwriting that looked like worm tracks. I used to feel a bit of camaraderie with him, but the guy was just too snarky and had the nerve to mock me as forever number 2. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. I slammed my book shut. My desk mate, who was deep into analyzing force diagrams, jumped. What the heck? My eyes lit up with passion. I'm taking that number 1 spot, back from Jason. My desk mate reached out a trembling hand to feel my forehead. You feverish? Or high? After learning the backstory, they sighed and shook their head. Do you even know where Jason's from? I scoffed. Who cares? I'm taking him down today no matter what. He's from Jiangsu. I sneered. So what? We're all from college exam war zones. Like I'm scared of Jiangsu. He used to study at Nanjing Foreign Language School, then transferred to Nanjing Normal University Affiliated High School. Last year, he ranked first in the physics competition for all of Jiangsu. They say he didn't make the national team because his family wouldn't allow it. A physics prodigy. This month's physics exam was brutal, and Jason was the only one with a perfect score. I heard even the physics teacher next door is looking down his nose at everyone now. I looked at my own paper, 90 points, and asked my desk mate, did he score 703 this time? They nodded, eyes filled with pity. He beat you by 5 points on his first exam. This time, he's 25 ahead. I choked, scrambling to save face. That's only because he was new. I was just being a gracious host. My desk mate glanced sideways at me. You've been gracious for 6 months now. Don't you think that's enough? I huffed and pulled out a fresh set of practice problems. Just wait and see how I drag him down from that throne. The evening self-study session hadn't even ended, and I'd already finished a whole set. I was a little tired, so I looked around. Everyone was deep in their books. I stretched and stood to splash some water on my face. Class 7 and Class 8 shared the 4th floor, right next to each other. As I passed Class 8, I couldn't help glancing in. Out of all the students, I spotted Jason in an instant. He just stood out. The oversized blue and white school uniform made him look even leaner. He sat upright, like a bamboo in the wind. The evening glow outside the window cast a fiery hue, while inside, he studied quietly with his head down. I zoned out a little, my steps slowing. Just then, a breeze messed up his bangs. He suddenly looked up and turned his eyes toward me. In that brief eye contact, Jason raised his eyebrows, half surprised, half provocative. Despite being hopeless in Chinese class, a line of poetry came to mind. In spring I wander, apricot blossoms brushing my head. Who is that charming youth on the road? My heart skipped a beat. I turned away in a panic and hurried off. In the restroom mirror, my face was beet red. I cursed myself for being so easily swayed by a handsome face. A splash of cold water helped cool me down a bit. I fixed my hair and stepped out, and ran right into Jason. A droplet of water hung from his bangs, his skin glowing pale and cool, eyes smiling at me. What a coincidence, number 2. How could someone that good-looking have such an annoying mouth? I didn't get mad. I smiled. Yeah, such a coincidence. 179. Jason's face immediately changed colors, rainbow style. Honestly, quite pretty. I'm 180. His cheeks were tight, and every word seemed to squeeze through his teeth. That machine was wrong. I shook water off my hands as I walked back. Sure, you're 180. You've always been 180. I'll just call you 180 from now on, happy? Nothing like driving someone crazy with kindness. Just as I neared Class 8's back door, I heard a sinister voice say, "Isabel, one day I'll make you pay." My scalp tingled, and I bolted back to the classroom. Was he planning to jump me after school? I talked a good game, sure, but I couldn't fight. Jason's height, whether 179 or 180, is up for debate. But my 160? Solid and unembellished. If he really cornered me, I wouldn't even have time to run. I imagined all the ways he might make me pay. But I missed one crucial point. Jason's brain just doesn't work like normal people's. When the school created the Tsinghua Peking University prep class, as the former top student, I naturally transferred in. And the current top student, he declined the prime seat in the middle of the third row, pointed to the empty spot next to me, and told the teacher, "I'll sit with Isabel. We both struggle in Chinese, so we can exchange tips." Me? Who said I wanted to exchange tips with you? If I'm sharing, it should be with someone who's good at Chinese. 2 weak spots sitting together, what's that gonna do? Compare whose answers are more ridiculous. But of course, the teacher actually believed his nonsense. My newly assigned deskmate casually stepped over me to take his seat and gave me a smug grin. Now the guy always one step ahead of you is sitting right next to you. Try not to explode. So this was his idea of making me pay? I glanced at his profile, thick lashes, sharp nose, defined jawline. Okay, annoyingly good-looking. Jason was famous at our school, partly for his god-tier grades and hideous handwriting, and partly for that face. His admirers could fill 2 classrooms. He got love letters every day, but some girls just didn't know their place take right now. For instance, Jason had stepped out to get water, and I was trying to catch a few minutes of rest. Suddenly, someone kept nudging me, literally. "Hey, move over. I need to put something down." Annoyed, I opened my eyes to see a girl reaching for Jason's backpack. "Hey, that's not really okay, is it?" She paused, rolled her eyes, and snapped, "Mind your business." With a loud zip, she opened Jason's bag, revealing some books and a phone inside. I frowned and grabbed her wrist, yanking her out of our shared space. Touching someone else's stuff without permission. That's a bit rude, don't you think? What's your problem? Think you're all that just 'cause you sit next to him? She flung my hand off so hard I stumbled back several steps. I was just about to hit the floor when a hand suddenly caught me around the waist and pulled me firmly into a warm chest. The person behind me felt like a human furnace. I went blank. "Yeah, she is all that," Jason said, his voice colder than usual, sharp as ice. "And who the hell are you touching my stuff and messing with my desk mate?" The girl burst into tears and ran out without a word, bumping into my shoulder on the way. I grimaced in pain. Jason let go of me and wasted no time mocking. "Aren't you usually all tough? What's with the marshmallow act today?" I glared at him, rubbing my shoulder. "I did it for you." "Oh, my hero," he said with a grin. "To thank you for your sacrifice. I'll do anything you ask today." "Anything?" Jason set his water bottle down and leaned his chin on his hand. "Except marrying me." I rolled my eyes while digging through my bag. "Please." I'd get ripped apart by your fangirls before I even said yes. Finally found it. I spread the paper open and placed it between me and Jason. "I can't figure out this question. Can you take a look?" Jason's expression turned serious at the mention of studying. "Let me see." In less than half a minute, he looked up. "It's not that hard. Look, the question says the speed is." All the noise around us faded, and all that remained was his clear, magnetic voice. The sunlight streaming through the window lit up his fingers as he held the pen. A moment later, Jason looked up at me. "Did you get it?" With the logic now clear, I lowered my eyes and nodded while writing down the formula. "Jason, there's another question I don't get. Can you help me with this one too?" I was doing calculations with my head down when Jason said, "Hang on a second." I glanced up in time to meet his gaze, serious and focused, less arrogant than usual, with a touch of gentleness. My pen paused. I quickly lowered my head again and continued the math. Just as I finished writing the last answer, and before I could lift my head, the paper was pulled away. Jason skimmed it briefly before handing it back. "Not bad. You used a method I hadn't thought of." I lifted my chin proudly. "Naturally." He smiled at me, then turned to the student who'd asked for help earlier. "Sorry for the wait. Which question was it?" "I'll take a look." "No worries. It's question 4. He looked calm and focused, eyes lowered, giving him a mature and composed air. I blinked, suddenly flustered. My heart was beating faster, such a strange feeling. It was the weekend at the end of the month, and Tony asked me to come to his house to pick up some materials. Apparently, the questions were from a famous professor, and not easy to get. I was excited as I knocked on his door. The door opened to Tony's beaming face, like a flower in full bloom, and behind him stood a very annoyed-looking Jason. When he saw me, Jason grinned with glee. My alarm bells went off, and I turned to bolt, but Tony hooked my backpack strap and dragged me back. "Where do you think you're going?" 2 minutes later, Jason and I were sitting side by side. In front of me was a modern literature workbook. In front of him, a handwriting practice sheet. "How'd he trick you into coming?" Jason muttered while tracing characters. He said he had a new set of physics, competition, mock exams. Old folks really are sly. "What are you two doing?" Tony tapped the armrest of his rocking chair while sipping tea. "You better both take this seriously." I rolled my eyes and obediently lowered my head to do the exercises. Just before dinner, Tony left with his keys. Before going, he warned us, "Don't even think about slacking. Stay put and behave." The door slammed shut. Jason and I looked at each other, then immediately started shoving our things into our bags. Jason finished packing and went out to the balcony to check the situation. He rode off on that little scooter. Didn't fake it. I zipped my bag up, excited like a bank robber who'd pulled off a job. Grabbing Jason, I ran for the door. "What are we waiting for? Let's go!" The poplar trees outside the apartment complex were bare, and the dry leaves crunched under our feet. We didn't stop running until we reached the gate. A gentle scratch ran across my palm. Jason chuckled. "Your hand's really sweaty, deskmate." Only then did I realize we were still holding hands. I quickly let go, and the air suddenly felt awkward. I clenched my fists and stuffed my hands into my sleeves, feeling like Jason's gaze was still lingering on the top of my head. Just as I was about to say something to break the tension, my stomach beat me to it with a loud growl, grr. A soft laugh came from above, and before the embarrassment could fully kick in, Jason grabbed my wrist. He pulled me forward, tall and lean as always, his voice clear and bright. Come on, tonight's dinner's on me. At a street stall, I gnawed on a lamb leg while Jason, chicken wing in mouth, opened a cold soda for me. The night market buzzed around us. I asked him, why do you transfer from Nanjing Normal Affiliated High to our school? That place is way better than here. He thought about it and said seriously, because of my dream. I looked at him like he was nuts. Who chases their dream by moving to a tiny county school? Jason just smiled. Had no choice. My family gave me a death order, come home and inherit the family business. So I had to find a school on my own. He said it so casually, but I was stunned. What business? Why can't you inherit and go to school at the same time? Jason leaned back and took a swig of cola. My dad wanted me to study finance abroad. I refused. Starved myself for 3 days before he transferred me to Nanjing Normal. Later, I wanted to join the national physics training team, but he wouldn't allow it, scared I'd choose physics as my major. I fought with him for days until he finally told me to get out. Said I couldn't take a penny from home, do whatever I wanted, but within 10 years I'd better make something of myself. Then he'd stop interfering. I was shocked. Then how are you eating and paying for stuff? He looked at me like I was the one being weird. I have shares. Plus, I made some money trading stocks. It's enough to buy a place. Great. This young master is insane. I ordered 20 more skewers of lamb, eyes brimming with tears. Damn capitalism, I was gonna eat him bankrupt. As I angrily munched on meat, Jason suddenly asked, Isabel, which one will you pick, Tsinghua or Peking University? I looked at him, half laughing. You've got a lot of faith in me. He met my eyes seriously. You wouldn't settle for anything less. Spend some time around you, and it's obvious how ambitious you are. I've seen how hard you work. Honestly, only Tsinghua or Peking University are good enough for you. My heart felt like it had just been punched, partly the joy of being recognized by a rival, and partly something else I couldn't name. I'm not doing all this just to get into some college. I'm doing it to increase my worth. I'd known since I was little without value. Surviving itself is hard. I looked up, drawing an arc in the air with my skewer. I want to stand high enough for everyone to see me. Damn, deskmate. That's badass. Having a dream is awesome. Jason's eyes sparkled as he raised his drink and clinked it against mine. Here's to dreams. His energy was infectious, and I smiled too. May we both get everything we wish for. Jason and I were the classic definition of fighting friends. Once we made peace, we talked about everything from English to chemistry, and then from chemistry to physics. Mid-convo, Jason suddenly looked like he remembered something. Didn't the physics teacher say we're going over the test Sunday night? I nodded as I munched on a skewer. Jason stared at me and slowly asked, Today is Sunday, right? Me! Jason and I shot to our feet at the same time and bolted towards school. Halfway there, we turned back. While the vendor yelled after us, Jason fished some bills from his pocket, tossed them down, and yelled, Boss! If it's not enough, go to No Bash 1 High and find Tony, the Chinese teacher. Jason and I stumbled into the classroom and called out, Reporting! In unison. The physics teacher stood at the podium looking displeased. But the moment he looked up and saw us, the deep frown on his face instantly softened. That kind of basic mistake in the last question? No way Jason or Isabel would have made it. He didn't even scold us for being late, just smiled kindly. Jason, Isabel, bring your test papers up here. Show everyone what the correct answers should look like. Crap, I'd planned to finish the physics paper this afternoon. Let's use Jason's. He's better at physics. Use Isabel's. Her handwriting is better than mine. We spoke at the same time. I shot Jason a glare, only to see him blinking at me like crazy. What? Is his eye cramping? 2 minutes later, the physics teacher stared expressionlessly at two completely blank sheets of paper and pointed toward the door. Out. I swear Jason and I are cosmically cursed. Nothing good ever happens when we're together. He was still grumbling. No way! Why didn't you finish your homework? I rolled my eyes. Like you did. You didn't write a word either. Those questions weren't challenging. I was saving them for last. He muttered. I was going to do them this afternoon, but Tony ruined it. Why do I hear someone talking about me? Just as Jason spoke, Tony sauntered over with his hands behind his back. Well, if it isn't our top 2 students of the senior year. Tsk, tsk. Tony looked us up and down, dripping with sarcasm. Really doing our class proud, huh? Jason and I played deaf, stared at the sky, and stood perfectly straight. Tony chuckled angrily, walked right up, rolled his lesson plan into a tube, and gave Jason a whack on the head. You little rascal! Try running off again next time. Jason shrank down pitifully. I quietly scooted a little to the side, afraid of catching stray fire. Before leaving, Tony left a warning. If either of you drags down the Chinese score again in the next exam, forget about having a free weekend ever again. To protect my weekends, I pinched my nose and started reviewing reading comprehension strategies. Jason, meanwhile, practiced his handwriting like a good boy. When we got tired, we'd go run a few laps around the track. I loved running. The feeling of the wind against my skin thrilled me. It made me feel like I was truly moving forward. As I jogged slowly, Jason ran beside me, quizzing me on English vocabulary. Every second in senior year was precious. Even when we were exhausted, no one dared actually stop. In the bleachers, Tony watched silently, holding his thermos, eyes fixed on the tall and short figures running side by side. A teacher nearby chuckled. That Jason kid definitely sees Isabel differently. Those two clearly have something going on. He turned to Tony. They're your students, both key prospects for the school. Aren't you going to step in? Step in for what? Those two know what they want. No need for me to interfere, Tony replied coolly. Besides, they look pretty good together, don't they? Ha, you're just biased. I didn't take the monthly exam this time. My mom was about to give birth. By the time I got to the hospital, my sister was already waiting at the door with my little sister. Where's Dad? I asked. She whispered. Still on the way. It was a small hospital, and the soundproofing wasn't great. The screams from inside the delivery room came through clearly, an animalistic, desperate wailing like a creature on the brink of death. It sent chills down my spine, stirring a primal sense of dread. My sister covered our little sister's ears. I leaned against the wall, eyes downcast. Sis, does she really have to have this baby? My sister didn't answer, but I already knew. To our parents, yes, she absolutely had to. They always clung to that sick hope. What if this one's a boy? It was disgusting. Before long, the doctor came out to announce it was a boy, and pathetically I felt relieved. Thank God it's a boy. The boy was ugly, wrinkled and squished. Only my little sister showed any interest, peering curiously over the edge of the crib. My dad came in beaming, went to look at his precious son first, then barked at my sister. Go pay the bill. Buy some supplements for your mum. And don't forget formula and diapers. My sister turned to leave, but I grabbed her arm. Why should she be the one paying? My dad glared, voice booming. Because she's my daughter. My sister gave me a pleading look, begging me not to stir things up. But I wouldn't back down. I'd had enough. He's your son, not her son. If you're not going to raise him, why have him in the first place? Read a few books and you think you can talk back to your father? Try yelling at me again. My little sister burst into tears. My older sister grabbed her with one hand and dragged me out of the room with the other. Shower, stop arguing. What if he hits you again? I held back tears. I'm not afraid. You work so hard, and you're the one paying for my tuition and Julia's expenses. Why should you have to pay for his son's formula too? She sighed softly. It's okay. I don't mind. As long as you and Julia are doing well. She's always said that. For as long as I can remember. It's okay. I'm not tired. Waking up at 5 to work, finishing her shift at 9:30, then going to another job until midnight. How could she not be tired? She's quiet but strong. Julia and I have never gone without. We even get new clothes for New Year. I held her hand tightly and said, Sis, just hang on a little longer. My college entrance exam is coming. Once I get into college, you won't have to work so hard anymore. As soon as I said, college, she smiled. Her face lit up like a 20-something for the first time. Okay, I'll wait. When I got back to school, evening self-study had already started. Tony called me over and handed me a few test papers. You can do these in the office. I'll proctor. Your ranking won't be affected. A few teachers gathered their things and left their desks, chatting as they went. Isabel, do your best. Show Jason what you've got. Manage your time wisely. If you get hungry, ask Tony to take you to the cafeteria. Good luck! The door closed softly behind them. I blinked away the soreness in my eyes, picked up my pen, and carefully wrote my name on the paper. When the test results came out, I stood in front of the honor board, looking up at my score. Still second. Jason was still number 1. I sighed quietly. A slim wrist brushed past my ear, the air filled with a faint, citrusy scent. His fingertip pointed at my name, traced backward, and stopped at my total score. 698. Not bad, 15 points higher than last time. I glanced at his 710 but said nothing. Jason shook his head with a helpless smile, shoved a warm can of milk into my hand, and pulled me out of the crowd. Don't stare at it anymore. You've got a 30-point lead on the third-place person, and you still look like your dog just died. What are the rest of us supposed to do? My frozen fingers slowly warmed up. I kept my head down, trailing closely behind him, until he stopped and sighed. Why are you crying? A fingertip gently brushed away my tears, and only then did I realize my face was soaked. Jason, I'm scared. The biting winter wind howled past, and a wave of helplessness crashed over me. What if I mess up the college entrance exam? What if I can't get out of here? What if I let everyone down? Isabel? He suddenly called my name and said quietly, If you're going to burn your bridges, you need courage. Don't look back. Just go forward. Heaven won't turn its back on those who truly work hard. Then, rather awkwardly, he reached out and gently patted my head. Don't be afraid. Let's not be afraid, either of us. He was trying to comfort me, but his voice trembled too. Snowflakes had begun to fall from the sky. I looked up at him and asked, Jason, are you scared too? For once, the usually defiant boy showed a rare side of himself. Jason shoved his hands into his school uniform pockets and let out a slow breath. Yeah, I'm scared too. I'm scared of failing, of being dragged back home, of ending up with nothing 10 years from now. He smiled wryly. There's a lot I'm afraid of. Turns out the boy who seemed to have every umbrella in the world was getting soaked just like me. I sniffled and told him, Then let's work harder. Do even better on the test. He looked at me and suddenly smiled. Okay. When the countdown to the college entrance exam dropped from 3 digits to 2, the whole senior year grew tense. Except for gym class, all other activities were cancelled. The schoolyard between classes grew noticeably empty. My parents rented a small place in the city and forced me to move out of the dorm to save on housing costs. The apartment was tiny and cramped. I shared a folding bed with my little sister, and to avoid disturbing her, I took a desk lamp out to the balcony to study. When I hit a tough problem, I called Jason using the old flip phone my sister had bought me. It was quiet on his end. The call made his voice sound a bit distorted, but I followed his logic step by step as he explained the question. Suddenly, a sharp cry from the baby pierced the still night. Jason paused briefly, then calmly continued explaining. The next morning when I arrived at school, there was a pair of noise-cancelling headphones on my desk. Jason looked up from his workbook, ears still a little red. Children's Day gift. Don't thank me. It wasn't even June yet. After school, I looked them up at the internet cafe. They cost 1,000 yuan, my entire monthly budget. I couldn't imagine how much sweat my sister had shed just to earn that kind of money. The next day, I returned the headphones to Jason. He looked flustered. You don't like them? I shook my head. I can't use them. Why not? I pulled out my flip phone from my bag. I don't have a smartphone. I can't connect to Bluetooth. The paint was chipped on the old keypad phone. Placed next to the sleek wireless earbuds, they looked like they belonged to two completely different eras. Jason frowned and shoved the earbuds back into my hands. Just keep them. You'll need them someday. I looked down at the white earbuds in my palm, stayed silent for a while, then finally put them back in my bag. Jason and I grew distant. There was no falling out, just a quiet, natural drift. We didn't banter like before. Instead, we became polite. Every request began with, "Sorry to trouble you," and always ended with, "No problem." Excuse me. My period had just started, and my lower abdomen ached. I stood up stiffly to let Jason pass. "Thanks," he muttered, then walked out of the classroom without looking back, cup in hand. I sat back down, curled over my desk with a hand on my stomach, trying to rest. One of those high school superpowers, being able to nap in 3 minutes flat. The class bell jolted me awake. I looked up and realized a shadow was cast over me. Jason's voice was calm. "Excuse me." After he sat down, I noticed that my water bottle had somehow been refilled with hot water. I took a sip, the faint sweetness of brown sugar spread across my tongue. I stole a glance at the boy beside me. He looked indifferent, eyes lowered to the workbook on his desk. But the pen in his hand still had the cap on. I sipped the brown sugar water again, and the corners of my lips lifted involuntarily. 3 days before the big exam, during the final evening self-study session, the air in the classroom was still thick with summer heat. Outside, golden rays leaked through the sunset. But to us seniors, that twilight sun felt more like the break of dawn. Jason and I were both focused on our own problems. The room quieted as the radio broadcast began. I was about to open my listening comprehension workbook when the music changed and a familiar song started playing. I just want to hold on to time and say goodbye properly. Someone in the classroom started quietly sobbing. My nose tingled. Just as I was trying to hold it in, Jason tapped me on the shoulder. I thought he wanted to get by, so I stepped aside. I was still wondering why he didn't say "excuse me," when suddenly a hot hand grabbed my wrist. Jason took my hand and, right in front of everyone, bolted out of the classroom. Our homeroom teacher came walking toward us, shouting behind, "Jason, where do you think you're taking Isabel?" Jason was grinning. Even the blaring music from the broadcast couldn't drown out his voice. "We're eloping!" it echoed through the whole school building. I was stunned, just blindly following as he ran. The entire senior floor erupted. Someone even shouted, "Only top students can make falling in love look this badass." He didn't stop until we reached the rooftop. The summer wind was hot and wild. Both of us were panting hard. Jason seemed nervous. He scratched the back of his head and held something out to me. "Here, this is for you." I looked down. There were 4 items. A 1 yuan coin, a piece of ginger, a 100 yuan bill, and a 50 yuan bill. I was even more confused than before. All this for 151 yuan and a chunk of ginger. Jason looked like he had so much he wanted to say. But in the end, he only managed 1 sentence. "Good luck on the exam." Nothing changed at home because of the college entrance exam. The chaos continued as usual. Only my sister cared she took Julia early to keep her from disturbing me. The baby's cries and my parents' shouting blended into one mess, but somehow, my mind was calmer than ever. This disgusting swamp, I'd escape it eventually, and I'd take my sister and Julia with me. On the day of the final exam, English, I packed up my things and headed for the door. My mom suddenly blocked me. "Your brother has a fever. Come with me to the hospital first." I shook her off and kept walking. "I have an exam. If you need help, go find Dad." "Your dad's at work," she screeched. "You're the only one in this house who's any good at anything." "I told you I have an exam. It's the college entrance exam." My mom blocked the door and glared at me. "What's more important, your exam or your little brother? You're coming to the hospital with me." A wave of helplessness washed over me. My mum didn't understand what the college entrance exam meant. She didn't know how important today was. All she knew was that she'd finally had a son and no longer had to be laughed at for having only daughters. When I was little, I had to cook breakfast for the whole family before school and wash everyone's clothes at night. If I slacked off, I'd get beaten. My dad once pointed at my nose and yelled, "If your sister hadn't begged to keep you so you could do chores, I'd have drowned you long ago." My voice was hoarse. "Mom, this is the college entrance exam. It's a really important test." She plopped herself down at the door and threw a full-blown tantrum. "I don't care if it's some low test or high test. You're going to the hospital with me today." The baby's cries and my mum's shrill screams mixed into a deafening chaos. My temples throbbed. I couldn't take it anymore and screamed back, "Why does it have to be me? It's the college entrance exam. Do you even understand what that means?" My mum froze at my yelling, but then resumed her wailing. "I can't live like this anymore. My daughter, who I raised so bitterly, hates me now. I don't want to live." Furious, I laughed and stormed into the kitchen, grabbed a knife, and slammed it into the table, slicing out a gash. "Fine, let's all die then. End it all together." "You're crazy!" My mom crawled backward in fear. I slashed wildly, not at her, but at everything nearby. "Didn't you say you couldn't live? Let's all go, then." "I'll start with you, then, your precious son. One life for two, what a deal." I hacked chunks out of the cabinets and chairs. Only when my mom crawled under the table in terror did I stop, panting. I dropped the knife, gave her curled-up figure a cold look, yanked the door open, and ran. Thankfully, I wasn't late. After the exam, my sister wouldn't let me go back home. She rented a basement room for me instead. I got a part-time job, saved up, and finally bought a smartphone. The first person to add me was Jason. Jason's profile picture looked like a blob of something ridiculous. I made fun of it for ages. The next day, he posted on Moments, "Little silver fungus is actually really cute." Scores came out fast. My sister's voice was trembling, but she still forced herself to comfort me. "It's okay, Shower. I believe in you." I exhaled and pressed the button. No scores appeared, just 3 stars in every field. My sister panicked. "What does that mean? Where are your scores?" Tears streamed down my face. I wiped them away and choked out, "Sis, it means I'm top 10 in the province." Jason's score screen looked exactly the same. I sent him a screenshot, and then he went totally silent. Typing stayed on the screen forever, but no message ever came. What? Was this his version of freaking out like Fan Jin passing the Imperial exam? I stopped paying attention and scrolled through Moments out of boredom. Around midnight, a new post popped up. Jason again. "I like you. Only visible to you." I could practically picture him on the other end of the screen, ears red, nervously staring at his phone. I chuckled softly. The basement was stuffy, with no ventilation, especially oppressive in the humid season. Julia was already asleep. My sister had her eyes closed, still fanning her with one hand. I thought of that warm can of milk on a shaky night, and that shout of eloping during evening self-study. The boy's affection had been loud and clear. Love is a game for the brave, but I had no plans to join. I tapped the keyboard and replied in my usual sarcastic tone, "Dumbass, you forgot to block me. Ha ha ha." Almost instantly, a voice message popped up. I went to the bathroom and hit play. The boy's voice was equal parts aggrieved and angry. "The Chinese teacher was right to call you a traitor. You're dense as a rock." I only teased you a little, and now it's personal? Do you really not get what I mean? Isabel, I don't believe it. My fingers paused. After a moment, I typed and sent a short reply. Jason, we're not a good match. This time, he didn't respond right away. In fact, not until much later when I was already on a university shuttle headed to the airport did my phone vibrate. Jason, not a good match? We're perfect for each other. There's plenty of time ahead. I'll prove it to you. Slowly. The boy thought time was endless, and nothing needed rushing. I smiled faintly and turned off the screen. The admissions officer from HKU looked at me through the rearview mirror and gossiped. Isabel, do you have a crush on anyone? The school can still give you one more spot, you know. I hesitated, then said, yeah, but it's not necessary. You're not together. No. Why not? I didn't want to explain. We're not right for each other. With a full scholarship from HKU, I didn't have to worry about tuition or living expenses. Half a year later, I brought my sister and Julia to live with me. Hong Kong's glitzy, indulgent life could easily lure someone in, but I focused on my major and rarely socialized. Oddly, that only made more people chase me until a senior teammate confessed. It's because you're famous for being a study maniac. Everyone wants to see what you'd be like in a relationship. I thought, insane. Annoyed, I finally changed my moment's signature. Already married. Handsome and successful. Don't bother, thanks. It worked wonders. Half the chaos around me disappeared. My academic path went smoothly. After undergrad, I received funding to study abroad. I earned my degree and even picked up a few awards along the way. During my final interview before returning home, a reporter asked why I always insisted on including my background whenever I appeared in magazines or newspapers. The reporter didn't mince words. Is it because you want more sympathy or attention? I smiled. Sympathy and attention don't do much for me. I just want more people to see me, or rather, more girls like me to see me. Maybe some of them have lived through what I did. I just want to tell them, don't let yourself sink deeper into the swamp. Please, save yourself. I looked the reporter in the eye. My background's just a few lines. Maybe you don't care. A lot of people don't. But somewhere out there, there's one girl who does. 2 weeks later, I boarded a flight back to China. The Capital Research Institute had invited me to join a team aligned with my area of study. After a few days of rest, I got a message there'd be a dinner to meet the team and break the ice. I put on some light makeup and drove to the dinner myself. It was close to year-end, and the weather had turned cold. I wrapped my coat tighter and walked quickly inside. Engineer Zhang from the lab saw me and waved to everyone. This is the newcomer, Isabel. Get to know her. Starting tomorrow, we'll all be working together, so let's take care of one another. After speaking, Engineer Zhang called out toward a corner. Jason, what are you standing there for? Come over and say hi. I followed his gaze and froze. That face was familiar, yet strangely unfamiliar. The man was dressed in a perfectly tailored black suit, broad-shouldered and slim-waisted, with deep black eyes fixed calmly on me, polite but distant. This is Jason, PhD from HKU, a young and promising talent. PhD from HKU? While Zhang was still introducing him, Jason suddenly interrupted. We know each other. Zhang blinked. You do? Jason's cool gaze landed on my face, but he said nothing. I had to continue. Yeah, we were high school classmates. Desk mates, Jason added. What a coincidence, Zhang said in surprise. Someone nearby joked. Wasn't it Jason who gave up a guaranteed grad school spot just to apply to HKU, nearly drove his advisor crazy? Don't tell me it was because of Isabel. I froze, only to hear Jason reply calmly. Yeah. Everyone started teasing us. Jason shifted his eyes back to me, his gaze dark. Been chasing her since high school, never caught her. I had to admit, when it came to shamelessness, Jason still took the crown. Back then he was arrogant and cocky. Now he was more refined, though still a polished rogue. Throughout the whole dinner, Jason's eyes never left me. I was still reeling from Zhang, calling him a PhD from HKU. Doing the math, Jason must have gotten into HKU right when I went abroad. HKU's physics department didn't even compare to Peking University's. Jason was really out of his mind. After the dinner, I headed down to the parking garage. Sure enough, I saw Jason leaning against a grey McLaren, a cigarette glowing between his fingers. Smoke curled around his face, blurring his features. He had changed so much, no longer that brash teen, but calm and composed. The moment he looked at me, a wave of dizziness hit me. I felt unsteady and had to stop a few steps away. Jason frowned slightly, annoyed. "Why are you standing way over there? I'm not gonna eat you," in that sharp tone. I caught a hint of something familiar. "You're so fierce." He stubbed out the cigarette and walked toward me, leaned down, studying me for a moment before laughing. "Isabel, are you drunk?" I instinctively denied it. "No, I only had 2 drinks." He snorted, amused. "Impressive." Whatever strangeness had lingered finally melted away. It felt like 10 years hadn't passed, like we'd only been apart a weekend. After a pause, he spoke first. "How have you been?" "Pretty good. Academics went smoothly. Career's on the rise. You? Did your 10-year promise come true?" He looked down, fidgeting with his lighter. "Yeah. My dad finally let me go." "Congrats. You too." Another silence. Then, "I was too immature back then," he said suddenly. I blinked, but didn't answer. "I was arrogant. Didn't consider your feelings." Jason's voice turned hoarse. "I'm sorry." He didn't wait for me to respond. Just straightened up, opened the car door, and said politely, "If you and your boyfriend are planning to get married, please be sure to send me an invitation." His voice was calm if you ignored the redness in his eyes. I reached out and grabbed his sleeve. "Jason, are you saying you've let it all go?" He looked down and replied quietly, "Yeah." "Then what's this?" I slipped my fingers into his sleeve and pulled out a red thread, at the end of which hung a chipped little bunny charm. I'd noticed it back at dinner because it was so familiar. It used to hang from my favorite pen back in high school. I'd used that same pen, swapping out refills for 3 years straight. How could I forget? I'd thrown it away after graduation. God knows where Jason got his hands on it. His body tensed. I couldn't help laughing. "Also, who told you I had a boyfriend and was planning to get married?" He froze. "You broke up?" I sighed. I never dated anyone. "What about that guy you started seeing freshman year? Changed your profile signature for him and everything." The jealousy in his tone made it clear. I blinked, suddenly remembering that did happen. After explaining, Jason gritted out, "Isabel, you really are something," I asked cautiously. "Is that why you never contacted me all these years?" Back when I first got into HKU, Jason tried reaching out many times, but we were young and reckless. Every call ended in a fight. Just half a month before I changed my profile signature, we'd had a huge blowout and blocked each other like immature kids. After that, Jason never reached out again. He pulled out a cigarette but didn't light it. At my question, he glanced sideways at me. "You think I'm the kind of guy who begs to steal someone else's girl?" I raised a brow. "Then why'd you go to HKU for grad school?" Jason scowled. "Never seen Bohemia flowers. Wanted to check them out. Is that a crime?" "Not at all," I smiled. "No one said it was." The parking garage was quiet. The air between us shifted. "Isabel," he murmured, "give the Jason from 10 years ago another chance." I didn't answer. I just leaned lightly against the car and pointed at the entrance. "Look, it's snowing." Heavy flakes fell, just like the night 10 years ago, when he handed me a warm can of milk during my lowest point. If I'd truly moved on, I wouldn't have come back, and I definitely wouldn't have applied to the same institute he worked at. 10 years ago, Isabel feared failure, but now she had enough strength to love. But Jason seemed to misunderstand. His eyes dimmed, and his face went pale. I sighed, wrapped my arms around his neck. and in his stunned gaze, tilted my head and kissed him. The snow's too beautiful. Let's share a kiss. In that moment, the Jason and Isabel from 10 years ago finally got what they'd wished for.